Hello, welcome to another episode of All Hands on Deck. I'm Katherine McBean, and today I'm joined by Susanne. Susanne isn't actually in the UK, she's in the southern part of Denmark, and historically has been working on projects, including the Unity Group. But I want to welcome Susanne because she's working in a way which very much works alongside the People's Food and Farming Alliance ethos and other groups who've been looking at food growth and that surrounds it for some time. So welcome, Susanne. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Can you tell the viewers what you have been doing? What have you been up to? What's your background?
Yes, personally, I'm just a farmer actually, and I've been working with the self-sufficiency, growing food, artisan food, and my main focus personally is endangered original species, like breeds of animal breeds and plant species, locally plant species, and wild herbs and berries. So that's my main personal interest. But what we have been doing in our group is that for about 8 years now, we have been working closely together with indigenous people, because we have been feeling and seeing this shift, I would say, that is happening in the world, and believe that we have all come here to play a major role in the transition of the world into a new era that has been planned for millennia. So our starting point is very spiritual. So what we are working on is how to bring more light into this world, and to make the transition and use the opportunity really to create a better place for all species, not just for humans, but for all species. And we have been working very closely together with the indigenous people on all continents, still do that, and believe that they have something that is very important to offer to our part of the world. But we also believe that our part of the world has something to offer to their part of the world. So building that bridge has been our main focus, and also to sort of give birth to a new way of being human. For everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you hope to achieve working with different indigenous people? Is it a case of understanding and comprehension, or is it to change things in a certain way to benefit everyone?
I think originally for me personally, I feel I'm indigenous to my land too. So just to have that as a clear point, because in our part of the world, we have been looking at indigenous lifestyle or indigenous way of living as something that was apart from us and not part of our world. But our forefathers and our culture have kept a lot of wisdom as well. Yeah. But we have been distancing ourselves very much from that wisdom. But some years ago, I was with what we do now as well, and I was contacted by some of the indigenous people, first by a dear friend who is the highest chief of Fiji. It has become a very dear friend of mine, and together with this chief, Tuilumaloma is his name, we have sort of developed our materials and how we operate in Denmark and Sweden, in UK as well, based on adding some of that indigenous wisdom into it. At the same time, I realized when I met him that they actually needed a lot of the wisdom we had too. So I have been giving equally a lot of messages back to them as well that they were actually in need of. So it has been a very two-way collaboration, and it still is, and it has expanded to also other continents, not only Oceania but also Africa and Latin America, and it has proven to be universal, and where we all long to end up, and to where we long to become is actually the same, and that's why the unity is so important, because eventually we will all end up in the same place, and what is a little bit difficult in this era right now is we have to wait on each other. We have to be patient with each other, because we all know where we eventually will all go. We will all be united. We are all one.
Yes. People don't realize we are all interconnected, and we need to remember that we are all interconnected. And what fascinates me and fills me with joy is, I think we both agree, we recognize each nation's individuality, their culture, their history, their indigenous makeup, that what's been there for so many years, and we should celebrate that, rather than we all have to be the same, which is what the big guys want us to look like. Yes, we are brothers and sisters across the world. We are interconnected, but it's also worth remembering our own histories, our own cultures, our own ways of taking it to food, ways of growing food, our own ways of working with our own climates, and our own native species, and so forth. But I love the fact that you guys are interconnecting and sharing and swapping ideas and supporting each other, and that is exactly what it should be.
Yes, and I think that we will we have so many. There's so many benefits from us sharing, and that's what you're doing as well in your groups. Because we can inspire each other, and what we're focusing on is very much creating the lighthouses, because some people they also need to see something with their own eyes, and other people, they can see it by going within. So they're already there. They have already been there. When I look at the era we're moving into, I have been there. I have seen it with my own eyes, but it's by going within. Other people need to see it more in a physical place. So that is also a way of manifesting those that new era that is actually already present. It's already here. So it's about bringing it down to the physical world and making it appear to a wider audience, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right in terms of asking for patience. I understand people want to move forward, they want to get on with it, they want to have, and so I don't think we need to stop. We're not waiting for people in order to start the work and start making changes and making things happen, but we do have to remember that we're going to have to capture them all and kind of bring them in as they become aware, as they their knowledge grows, because we are all on the same team. We are all on the same team. In terms of food and farming, where you are there challenges being put into place in terms of farmers and producers being able to work to produce food as they need to?
I think as I see it at the moment, we have different timelines operating at the same time. So we have one timeline where things are getting more and more complicated in the 3D world, so to speak. Restrictions, different ways, especially I'm personally very involved, as I mentioned, in the original species of animals, breeds, and it's very tough for the farmers that have decided to keep the original Danish breeds alive. It's very expensive and a lot of restrictions, and most of those restrictions are so anti-animal. the original way of looking, the original way of living, and
we've got farmers here. I was speaking to a farmer last week, and she's thinking of collecting the sperm from her heritage breeds, which is those traditional breeds, because she can see the agricultural industry and those who lead the way, allegedly, trying to remove heritage breeds from the UK.
Yes, and that's happening here too. And we just made a big conference in Denmark, actually, in September, where we had gathered breeders of original breeds from all over Europe. We had 9 countries represented for a big conference. We have been visiting also the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, and we have been trying to communicate. And that's part of another organization that I also work with, that is called SAFE. So it's SAFE Foundation in Europe and SAFE Denmark. And it's becoming very tough in all countries to protect and to keep those species alive, and also the plant species, they are disappearing. In Scandinavia, we have the Nordic Gene Bank, which is a lot of different species kept, but they don't have any money to reproduce them. And the problem is that what we see now with the changes of weather conditions, and you need to bring them, they have to be alive. You cannot freeze them down. You cannot just take frozen seeds and store it in seed banks, or you cannot take seeds from plants and just freeze it down, because they will not be adapted to the existing, because our world is alive. It keeps moving, and Gaia, or the Earth, we call it Midgard in Scandinavia. It's alive. It has its own consciousness. It's alive by itself, and just like we are, and therefore that adaptation has to be ongoing. So we need to have what we call living seed banks, and instead of frozen ones, to them. And we also need the animals and the plants to live in their original surroundings. How many people are aware that the pig is a forest animal? The chicken is a forest animal. They should live close to trees and in their original surroundings. Otherwise, they will lose their.
The amount of people who are amazed when I say pigs should be in a woodland environment. That's what suits pigs. But people don't realize that. They think, oh, they just sit in a field and that's fine. But actually, they thrive in a woodland environment. They are so much healthier for being in a woodland environment. And we take these animals out of their natural habitat and expect them to perform and have longevity and be healthy. And we are not allowing them their natural environment to be in. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, and then the next thing is that we want to give them vaccines. We want to treat them antibiotics. We want to treat them all sorts of things that are so foreign to their system, and because they have a very high immunity, and they are, as long as they are kept in their original surroundings, I think they're so inspiring to work with, because just like them, we should find our original habitat to live in, and we should be closer to nature. We should adapt nature within our lives, and if that's not like going for a walk in a park, it's not being close to nature. You have to grow roots. And also one of the things that we're working with in our group is also to find your roots and to grow those roots stronger. That it's not a coincidence that you're born where you are, in the family you're born in the community you're born in, and the country you're born in, because you needed those energies from that specific place. That doesn't mean that you should not be open to other inputs or impulses, but it's definitely not a coincidence. You have a role to play where you're born, and that's some of the things that has been very strongly communicated from the indigenous people. In other cultures, they're very aware of their origin.
What I do find exciting is, like lots of others, I've been aware for a very, very long time that what reality looks very different to how most people have seen it. And I have seen in the last year or so for a lot of people longer, but in terms of the majority who are aware there are issues out there, so many want to return to nature. So many are starting to understand the impact on us in our physiologically, emotionally, spiritually, that being away from nature is so detrimental to our health on every single level. It's not how we were made to be. It's not how it's supposed to be. And that recognition is finally starting to penetrate many, 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 many more people now than ever before, and certainly in modern history. And it is beautiful to watch this desire growing more passionately every day to return to nature. The world is going to look very, very different in 10, 15, 20 years time. And I do believe we'll be far more in touch with nature. People will be moving away from the corporate jobs and understanding the need to look at the world in a different way and work with the world in a different way. And I think we'll see a huge return to people involved with food production in its far more natural, traditional methodology than what we've seen happen in the last 20, 30 years, maybe a bit longer actually, across the world. Are you noticing a change in Denmark? Are you seeing people starting to shift?
Yes, definitely. And I think after COVID, we have seen a lot more of that manifesting itself in the physical. People, they were really wanted to get out of the cities, and we have introduced in our group, we have introduced what we call a Return to the Land program that we started to introduce first in amongst the indigenous people, because they saw that a lot of the young people in the communities, they were leaving the original land, and they were moving into the cities and dreamt of that lifestyle they were seeing in magazines, and which never happened because they usually ended up in poor conditions and sometimes in slums and things that were not really but it can be a little bit difficult to come back and to admit that what you had was actually beautiful. So we have created that Return to the Land program, and we're actually working on that in Europe now, because we see that, as you just said, that the people around even our part of the world, they are longing to go back to nature. They're longing to be near trees and to grow their own food, and to and even to understand what food is just medicine. Why would you not feed yourself the very best you can bring to life? That's what used to happen, that the farmer would always have their own kitchen garden where they made the food for their own family, and then they had the other food that they were selling on markets or for wholesalers or whatever. But the very best always went to their own family. And I think what we do is building also on those family traditions, and trying to and that could be a chosen family. It can be your blood family, but to come together in communities and to grow your food and to develop yourself all senses, really, because when you're feeding yourself high quality food from regenerated soil that is alive, full of microorganisms, and then you will also be alive yourself. So it's actually a way of developing your own 12 senses also, not just surviving as we've been more or less used to. So it's more about actually connecting to your own higher self, and you need to look at what you eat as well in order to get that.
Absolutely. I mean, people don't realise that certainly in the UK, based on reports I've read, there is a massive lacking, a depletion in people's very important vitamins and minerals. And because we don't eat the right food grown in the right way anymore, We lose, the amount of magnesium people are depleted in. If they understood the amount of magnesium you can get from having food grown in fantastic soil, or animals grazing on really great grass, really great foliage, and allowed to graze in their natural habitat, their natural environment, we would have so many illnesses, so many physical manifestations that take place that are very negative come or are supported by poor food. I mean, people don't realize, and I stand by this, that an animal it's not in its natural habitat, more often than not is in a very nasty environment, and then slaughtered in a very, very nasty environment. That meat is tainted. That meat is not going to taste good. It's not going to be nutritionally valuable. It's going to be impacted by that animal's welfare, what it was like when they were alive. If we took care of our animals properly, allowed them to live the lives they're supposed to live in the environment, the healthy environment they're supposed to be in, doing the work on the land that they are built to do naturally, and then they were dealt with and dispatched in a very humane, empathetic way, that quality of meat, that nutritional value, that flavor would be very, very different. And people don't understand how impactful the way in which we farm, how devastating it is to human health, let alone animal health, environmental health, soil health, everything else. But it's not difficult, and so it's not complex to make the changes we need to make. We need a transition now from this more industrial style farming back into indigenous, traditional, mixed farming approaches. Again, do you have a bit of that issue in Denmark? It's moved much more towards the industrial farming than the traditional farming approach.
At the moment, I think we are actually at a brink of we have to decide where we want to go, really, as society. One thing that I see at the moment is that all the land is being concentrated, and we see a lot of international investment funds and capital funds buying up the land. That has not been legal recently in Denmark, and that's really happening now with very, very quickly now, and it's a danger to our sovereignty, because sovereignty is so important that we understand, and we are kings in our own kingdoms. We are. So every farmer, every even consumer producing their own food and being self-sufficient, they need to be kings in their own kingdom, and they have to stand on the land, and they have to have that deep connection with all the species living on their plot of land, the different birds and the different insects and the different wild animals, and also the farmed and cultivated animals and plants. So and as soon as people understand the impact it has on us and all the species, when we communicate, you can actually speak to your animals and to the plants, and they communicate back to you. As soon as your senses are wide open, you will be able to understand and speak their language. So you will get information that is very important for you. Another thing that I just got to think about when you asked your question also was, here I have a close relationship also to one of the Danish researchers from the University of Aarhus. His name is Jens Otto Andersen, and he has been writing several books about the vitality of food, he call it. And because we're so used to just look at any food as it's being just a production item instead of something that is alive or less alive to some degree. And he's doing what he calls kitchen research, and those kitchen research he demonstrates by, for example, buying cucumbers. He's buying biodynamic cucumbers, he's buying conventional cucumbers, he's buying organic cucumbers, and then he cut those cucumbers into 2 centimeter slices and wrap them back into Vita wrap or like plastic for 12 days and leave them at the at the room temperature, and then he unpacked the cucumbers. And what you would see is that many of the conventional ones, they are after 12 days they are black mold on top. They are mushy, and a lot of liquid in the plastic, and they have started to rotten. Then you have the organic ones. They are still green, but they have started to become yellow, and they have few marks of usually of mold, but still alive and very much alive, light green. Then you look at the biodynamic ones. They would be after 12 days, they would have started to regrow back all the cuts together. They have regenerated, so it's still dark green, and it has started to heal all the wounds from the cuts, and it has actually grown so much back together that that cucumber would be able to carry a weight of 8 kilos. So they have totally regenerated. So what happens to you when you eat food that is degenerating compared to when you eat food that it has the ability to heal itself and put it together?
Biodynamic cucumber, you're putting life into your body. You're putting real vibrant life into your body, and people need to understand that affects you on so many levels. What is hard, and what we at PFFA are trying to change, and I'm sure other groups across the world, is accessibility. We cannot access these products easily because they're not around. So it's going to take all of us to play a part in growing, rearing. When I say processing, I mean the mildest of processing for your butter or your cheese or other such products. And local production. This doesn't need to travel. It doesn't need to go far. It's on your doorstep. You know, you can access this edible life source and force, and you know, you can really heal yourself on so many levels. And I know I want to see us moving in that direction a lot more. I want that to become the normal, is that we have this energy, this life energy in front of us that we can enjoy and we can grow. And I think you raised some really valid points in terms of there's an element of respect missing in how we view our food. And it might sound bonkers, you know, respecting a cucumber or whatever, but if people understood what that cucumber is going to give you, you'd have a lot more respect for it. People will respect the tablets, the pills they receive from a doctor, which tells them it's going to improve their health. You can see there's an element of admiration about what this product will do for them. To put that focus into live food, you know, energy giving food, and it's a whole different ball game. And it's that connection we're missing. We're missing it on every level, every element of food production. And I think it's such part of this innate internal driving force, this desire to return to nature, is very much not just the elements around us. It is the food we consume, the water we consume, and our interaction with nature, our interaction with food, our interaction with the sunlight and all the weather, the natural weather, not the pretend weather, the natural weather. We need that interaction. And I'm filled with joy, Susanne, when I look around me, and in the last year or two, all these people, just this innate knowing that we need to return back to the land. What would you say in terms of, you have to guess, I expect, but in terms of what's happening in Denmark, would you say maybe 50% of the people are becoming aware there's issues and are looking to return to their natural state? Or where do you think Denmark is at? Because in the UK, I'd say we're at probably about 50% now.
Yeah, I think because we have had a very strong organic movement in Denmark for many, many years, I think that we may even be higher when it comes to food specifically. I think it's yes. So I would say that here it's people are very much aware of the food, and what we are working with now is actually to how can we get that next step introduced, which is actually things that food is alive. It has it has a spirit. It's an energy, just like we are energy. So that awareness is maybe in the next phase that I would say we would go into. I think that, yeah, for example, the Danish organic brand is known by 98% of the Danish population. So it's that awareness. Not everybody are for organic, of course, but the brand is very well known. At the moment, we see that some of those quality foods, like biodynamic, organic, it's becoming expensive. So many people are now have been forced to choose lower quality. So I think that the next phase will probably be that people need to start also growing themselves in communities and growing, whether you have a window screen or you have a balcony or you have like a garden or a small farm, or you don't have any of that, then you have a community garden. I mean, you can get land everywhere, churches or local municipalities, or even bigger land where they have a corner where the farmers say it's too difficult to grow that corner. They would definitely give that corner to a community project, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. At PFFA, we've got 3 strands. We've got the grow your own, community growing groups, and then farmers and producers. And these 2 we kicked off in 2022, and it's been phenomenal. So many people are starting to grow their own, and so many groups are coming together to source land and start growing at a community level. The farmers and producers, we're not having a huge amount of luck. A lot of the farmers aren't aware of the bigger picture stuff that's going on in the world right now. Plus, they have worked this way for many, many years, thinking they're absolutely doing the right thing. The supermarkets, the government bodies have supported this monocrop, conventional style of farming, this industrial approach to farming. So I think it's going to come down to consumers. I think this revolution, this food revolution, is going to be led by consumers. And I think the farmers will catch up and they will join in and start to transition back to more traditional mixed farming approaches and supporting and working directly with communities, because we need to see that happening. But I do think consumers are going to lead the way, and I think a lot of smaller farms are going to be popping up, which is marvelous. But we're certainly starting a transition. Again, in Denmark, obviously the organic movement started moving, but in terms of your conventional farmers, do you think they're aware of the bigger problems, or do you think they're just focused on what they're doing and very, very busy?
I used to think that they were not aware or didn't see, but I think that many of them are really seeing a lot at the moment, because they are under so much pressure, very bad financial circumstances. At the moment, they're talking about introducing CO2 tax, like they did in Holland and New Zealand, and so the farmers are under a lot of pressure now, and that transition, I think it has to happen, even though it's not pleasure, like it's not a pleasure for any of us, but we need to come closer to nature. We need to do things in a different way, and actually I feel that a lot of the farmers, they are not against the transition. The problem is really financing. Many of them are, the banks are not supporting, and today it's the bank deciding how to run how they have to run their businesses, and they're promoting and the farmers who are very efficient and yeah, doing monoculture, and they are in their book the professional ones, and everybody else are less professional. So we have to change that consciousness, because it's our beliefs systems, because it's I think what we will need to see is a lot of more people moving back to small farms, and then we have historically we have had a few very big farms, and they need to be there too, because they had a big role to play in preserving some of the non-farmable areas, big woodlands and bigger natural meadows. But what we have seen with the industrialization is that all small farms have disappeared, and those middle-sized farms, they have become like industrialized in a way that they belonged in an industrial area in a city more than in nature. So that I actually see that as the biggest problem. So we need to preserve also our cultural values, the cultural landscapes, the cultural surroundings where those original animals have also lived. So small farms have a very big role to play in that, and we have to rebuild them, and we have to take possess of, also finding solutions to take possess of the land, really, to split up the farms in smaller units, and making it possible for more people. What we learned or have seen in some of the indigenous communities is actually, for example, in Fiji, if you're born in Fiji, it's the only place in the world where they still stand on the land, as they call it, in regard to sovereignty. And when you're born in Fiji, you're given a piece of land, because if you don't have your own land, you don't have a mother country or father country, whatever you call it. So for them, it's very important that everybody has access to their own piece of land where they can connect with nature. So that should be a birthright to be given your land where you're born. It's not a coincidence where you're born. You should be given a piece of land. And then whether you want to live somewhere else or move somewhere else, you also always have your land where you can return to and connect. So it's a spiritual thing that you need a piece of your country, a piece of the place where you're born. So that should be a birth-given right, and that's what we would like to see in all countries, that everybody who is born, they have their own kingdom, their own piece of land where they can co-create heaven on earth. So if we have enough people who are creating heaven on earth, then eventually the entire world would be one big heaven on earth. So instead of dreaming about politicians or governments doing it, we can create it from bottom up. We can do it ourselves. We can start by making a paradise wherever you are, whether you have just a small spot or plot of land, or you have a bigger, larger little farm or bigger farm. You can always start creating and converting that land into your paradise. What is your vision of paradise? And that's coming by going within. So if you can connect with your own higher self and see, what would you like to see? What kind of species do you want to, what kind of smells do you want to smell when you're on the land? What kind of music would you like to hear? Which kind of birds would you like to attract? What would you like to attract for your eyes? What kind of flowers? What kind of insects, butterflies would you like to see? What would you like to taste? Different tastes would you like to find on your land? Both to become self-sufficient, but also to stimulate your different senses. And so you can become whole as a human being. So that is really important. So paradise is right where you are. Nobody is going to create it for you. You are the creator, and you can create paradise wherever you are. And it's up to you, actually. Don't wait for anybody to do it.
I mean, even people who don't have much space, plant something like lemon balm, something that can grow in a pot. Something that can be medicinal, you can use it in hot drinks, but just the aroma, just the smell of it is so stimulating, and it's beautiful. I mean, I've got honeysuckle just growing outside my back door, and if ever I'm having a tough moment, I'll go outside and I'll smell the honeysuckle, and it just changes my mood. It just adjusts how I'm feeling, because for me, that's a smell that I just adore. And all the bees around there, the butterflies around there, and that's just a couple of minutes of absolutely changing my mindset, shifting my mood by smelling honeysuckle. And it's that simple. But that's my little part of paradise, is my honeysuckle bush, where I can go and just shift how I'm feeling and just take a breath. And it can be as simple as that. People out there, you don't need to have a massive garden in order to create your small plot of paradise. I absolutely agree with Susanne. Find the smells you enjoy, plant things that attract birds you enjoy watching. The different colors are so stimulating and beautiful. Grow what you find beautiful. And for all of us, that looks different. It's like when people say, right, I've never grown food before. What do I grow? I say, grow what you're going to eat, grow what you enjoy, grow what you get pleasure from.
Yeah.
Don't try and do things for the sake of doing it. Just start with what you know you're going to enjoy consuming. And it's that, again, is creating your own little area of paradise. It really is. And there's nothing more exciting than when you first start growing food and it actually starts growing and you're looking at it, and it's very exciting times. So, Susanna, before we finish off, where are you Susanne, sorry, where are you going now? What work are you working on, and what changes are you wanting to see come or realistically come into Denmark?
Yeah, at the moment, because we have been very much focused the latest 8 years on the indigenous people around the world, we have now recently decided that it's time to go home. So it actually as a download. So it's time to put more focus. Again, we are very active in Denmark and Sweden and also in UK, but it is time to be more focused at home compared to spending all your time on other continents. So we want to bring set more focused at home, and also, of course, really like to cooperate with many other groups that are already doing it. But what we would like to or can assist on is maybe introducing that a little bit more spiritual approach to how can you connect with the land, how can you connect with the different species, and how can you do your inner sort of that inner work that is also needed in order to transition into the new era that we all have the opportunity now to join. The timeline is already here. We can all join it today and get out of fear and start joining that co-creation of creating heaven on earth. That's up to us. We can start today. So the opportunities are there already. So that's what we really wish to do, both directly, of course, where we are, but also together with other people who have like-minded ideas and where we can support each other and train the trainers so they can get out in their local communities, because it's really a matter of making the changes wherever we are and where we're born, because that's where we can. So many things are happening in the world. We cannot change that, what's going on in the wide world, and we don't even know what is true and what is not true. So, but wherever you are, you can always make a change for yourself and your family and for your local community, and those changes is really up to you.
And I think people, are starting to realise more now as well. If you can work on you and yours in your area, it will start to ripple, and local action will then have a national impact, and that national impact will filter out and ripple across the world to our international brothers and sisters. And we are all interconnected, we are all part of one, and what we do will impact on others, but very much on ourselves as well. It comes down to raising your vibration. The highest vibration is love. And if you put, I can do it. I'll walk into a room, and if I'm genuinely just kind of sharing out love from my body, if I'm just kind of pushing love out, people will turn and they feel it, and they'll turn and look at me, and they'll smile, or they'll come up to me, they'll approach me, and there's a real genuine warmth there between people I've never met before, never met before, but they know I'm coming in with love. And exactly the same happens with nature in my experience.
Yes.
Animals know. They know if you love them. They know. And I've had wonderful experiences, not just with pets, but with my working animals as well, and the relationship that is formed. And it is one of a mutual respect as well. People don't get that. It's true. It's really true. Susanne, it'd be lovely if at some point you could kindly come onto a People's Food and Farming Alliance Zoom with some of our members, and maybe talk about the more spiritual connection with the earth, with nature, and what that can look like. Because for a lot of people, they haven't yet experienced that. They're just starting to realize hang on a minute, the food I'm eating isn't great for me, the way we farm is not good, and they're at that stage of their journey. But it would be great then to be able to guide them into more the spiritual side of things and the connection to nature and what that does for us as well as nature.
Yes.
Would you be okay with that if we organise
Yeah,
that?
yes, definitely. Oh, that would be a pleasure. Yes.
Fantastic, fantastic. Susanne, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute genuine pleasure to talk with you. And it's wonderful that these international connections are being made and we're all trying to move in the same direction, and we are going to get there, and it is going to be incredible. Well, like you say, you can start now. It's already started. Just
Yeah.
jump in and enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I think over the coming few years, we're going to see massive development on this as it rolls out across the world and people understand we need to lean into our innate spiritual beings. We need to be who we are meant to be. And that very much involves our connection to nature. And as we heal, nature heals, and vice versa.
Yes,
It works
exactly.
both ways.
Yes.
Have a great day, Susanne. You guys out there, please like, share, subscribe, get this out there. Share it with other people in other countries, because we're all moving in the same direction. We're all part of the same family, and it's important that we work together and support each other. But have a wonderful week. We'll speak soon, and God bless.